Could you please introduce yourselves and just say your job description? Ellie, you want to start?
My name's McCormack and I work at the Australian Museum in the Science Communication Unit, and I've been here for about 2 years, going on 3 years now, and basically what I do is organise the Science in the City, Science in the Bush and Science in the Suburbs events, and make sure that they run smoothly. In a nutshell, that's what I do. I also, from time to time, will do other events here and there. I've been doing things like museum morning teas this year, which has been a bit of an experiment, using the museum as a venue to attract people who might not otherwise come to the museum to give it a try. And basically, I could go on more, but that's basically what I do.
And I'm Sophie Lieberman. I'm the coordinator of science communication here at the Australian Museum. My job is managing Ellen, which is the easy part, and then the more difficult part is I spend a lot of my time looking at how the Australian Museum plays a role strategically in science communication across a series of different playing fields, both from a state government level and a federal government level, and also then down to what we do for communities, how we function as an education provider, and also how we're functioning as part of sort of social inclusion and acting as an advocate for science in the community.
Great. So what do you think science communication is in general?
Well, in general, it's a really big question, and one of the really fun things about science communication is it could be anything. There are journalists who call themselves science communicators, and then there are people who work as presenters for institutions like Questacon. There are people who call themselves science communicators who are also policy advisors for government. So it's a really, really broad church, and that's one of the things that's really, really exciting about it, is that pretty much anyone can, in some way, shape or form, find a role for themselves in science communication. The science communication that we do at the museum, I often say that it's a bit funny to have a SciComm unit here, because in fact everything that the museum does is a form of science communication. So our science researchers are involved in science communication at a very academic, high-end level, right down to our Learning Services Office, which provides things for primary school children and high school children, or even our Under Fives program, which does things for really small kids. Engaging with our collections. So science communication for me is basically about engaging with science literacy at some level, and science literacy is important, I believe, and many others believe as well, because we need a scientifically literate community in order for people to make good decisions. And so the thing that excites me about working in science communication is it's an opportunity to enable people to make good decisions about what they want from their lives and what they want from their society. That's my answer. What's yours?
You can't really beat that. Well, I would agree with everything that Sophie said, because it's all very good. But for me, I guess it's more, well, in terms of my job description and what science communication means to me, I guess it's more the nuts and bolts, I suppose, because I'm more involved in our relationships with presenting organisations like Questacon, CSIRO, Sydney University, and other people who are involved. So for me, science communication is about making sure that those presenters are presenting a clear message to our audience, which is school children from primary school to high school age. And it's mostly about getting kids excited about science. That's the main thing that we aim to do for all the kids that come. It's a very simple aim, and most of the time I think we achieve that. Not always, but I think most of the time we do, and that's a good thing to accomplish. And yeah, I think it's just that excitement about science that I can hopefully facilitate by making sure that presenters who are involved in our events have a smoothly run event to be a part of.
Excellent. So you've sort of said how science communication plays out in your jobs. Now, do you have any advice for any budding science communicators out there?
Do something you love, I think, is the most important thing. And one of the really nice things about working as a science communicator, particularly with the communities that I've been working with, or we've been working with, is that the people who come to it because they actually have a passion. It's almost like a vocational kind of propulsion into science communication, and sometimes that can make for some very interesting relationships. But mostly it's actually about dealing with people who are really passionate about what they do, and I don't think anybody goes into science communication unless they are. But I think one of the things that perhaps is pertinent as a piece of advice is to know that it is actually an extraordinarily broad industry, and to work out where it is that your skill set sits such that you are actually communicating your passion for science at the best level. So some people might think, oh, well, you know, I'm not a very good presenter, I don't really like dealing with school kids. Well, that's okay. That's a very small part of science communication. You might have an absolute passion for policy, and in that case there are places like the Office of Science and Medical Research, Department of Innovation and Industry, all those kinds of areas where the government are calling out at both the state and federal level for people who have a good, solid understanding of science and are able to communicate that at a policy or even an industry level. So I think don't be disheartened by what you can't do. Focus on what it is that you can do and you're passionate about, and I think science communication can take you a long way.
Yeah, I think that broad approach is important because for me, coming into this unit, it's kind of opened my eyes really to the opportunities that are out there for people with science backgrounds. Just having worked with organisations like New South Wales DPI, there's just so many strands within that organisation that, you know, they do marine stuff, they do agricultural stuff. There's just so many different sciences that they encompass. So just even looking outside the square a bit, you know, you don't necessarily have to work for a museum or a university or, you know, a drug research company or something like that. There's so many other places that you can look to for even, you know, internships, work experience, all that kind of stuff. So just have a look out there and see, you know, what is out there that would interest you. I guess that would be my advice. Because there's just so much more than you would think.
And there are some amazing networks out there in communities. So I think becoming involved with things like National Science Week, or becoming involved with Young Scientists of Australia, or even things like Women in Science Network. There are so many different networks that will support different interests and possibilities. So whilst it might seem completely overwhelming and vast and all-encompassing, as I've just described it, there are actually some amazing networks out there that you can become a part of, and it's usually through those networks that you're able to find those things that are both personally and professionally really resonant to you, and opportunities will flow from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.